Welcome! Each week I look through the literature for interesting reports on climate and weather events around the world. This video summarizes those reports for the week ending the 2nd of February 2020. I hope you will enjoy. You may recall in last week's video I talked about a storm that hit Madagascar. It's since moved across that island and is now impacting the east coast of Africa, particularly Mozambique. There have been 65,000 people without power. 45 people have been killed, interestingly most by lightning strikes, and there are another 66 people severely injured. A major earthquake, 7.7 on the Richter scale, rattled the Caribbean this week. It was centered between Jamaica and Cuba, but no tsunami resulted, fortunately. There was no reports of injuries, but there is some minor damage here and there. It was felt as far north as Miami. I must admit, I don't drink wine. I find a lot of the discussion of wine pretentious and silly. To me, it smells like rotted grapes, which of course is exactly what it is. However, a new report says that global warming may force up to 50% of the world's wine growers to abandon the varieties they've been working with for centuries and adopt new varieties that are more drought tolerant. Up to 15% of those vineyards will probably have to be abandoned. The areas that are most effective are going to be France, Italy, Spain, California and Australia. Amusingly, it says that England could become one of the world's leading wine producers in the next few decades. There has been record rainfall in southeastern Brazil. Nearly 32 inches of rain have fallen in the last 4 weeks, 3 times its annual rainfall. This has resulted in flash floods and landslides. 30,000 people are currently homeless, and 54 people have been killed and 17 more are missing. Mount Thorbjorn in Iceland is getting taller. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but you guessed the message. It is rising at about 1/10 of an inch per day. That indicates that magma is accumulating beneath the mountain and pushing the mountain up, which it may mean that an eruption is imminent. So the Icelandic government has declared what is called a state of uncertainty, which I think is both informative and amusing. Poor old Seattle. Not had one officially sunny day since the 30th of November. And there's only been one day without measurable rainfall, and that was the 1st of January. And I see from the current weather reports that another big storm is just hitting the area. And they say that England is a wet and cloudy land. I think this takes the biscuit. Strong winds have knocked down several sections of the new border wall between the US and Mexico. Further, it's been discovered that the design did not allow for the fact there were monsoon rains in the area quite regularly during certain parts of the year, and so may have to be retrofitted with sluice gates which will remain open for many months at a time, somewhat defeating the purpose of the wall. There's been major flooding in British Columbia. It apparently was caused by a Category 4 atmospheric river. Now, I've not really been able to find out much detail what Category 4 atmospheric rivers are, but I assume it's a pretty bad one. A state of emergency had to be declared on Vancouver Island. Many roads were closed. There were large-scale power outages and telecommunication and service interruptions, and many people had to be rescued from marooned vehicles. We have now a telescope available in Hawaii that gets the most detailed images of the sun to date. It's called the Inouye telescope. It's 4 meters across. It became operational last month. On the right is one of its first pictures. It resolves areas of 0.045 arc seconds, which is equivalent to about 30 kilometers across, seen from 152 million kilometers away, which is quite remarkable. The picture you see on the right is actually a picture of the granular cells in the sun. These are convection cells. You notice they're bright in the middle and dark at the edges. That's because as the material bubbles up from the lower levels of the sun, it's hot, so it appears bright. It then cools off and sinks down at the edges, so it's darker at the edges and lighter in the center. And following the dynamics of this and how this interacts with magnetic fields is going to tell us a lot about how the surface of the sun works. Well, how is the sun doing? Well, this last week a new sunspot group appeared on the sun. It was in the northern hemisphere and fairly close to the equator, and when you looked at the magnetogram, the leading spot was negative, which means it's an old cycle region, still part of solar cycle 24. We actually have a much smaller region that appeared in the southern hemisphere that was a new cycle region as well. Overall, in the month of January, it was a relatively active month as far as sunspots were concerned. Here's a plot of the sunspot number throughout the month, and you can see we've had several different regions appear and disappear in that time. The average sunspot number for the month was 6. That compares with more that in comparison is more than 10 times what the lowest sunspot number was, which was in October, which was 0.4. So it might mean that solar activity is beginning to pick up again, which would be nice. However, we're still in the transition phase between solar cycle 24 and solar cycle 25. And so it's probably be some time before we start seeing major regions from solar cycle 25. Each week I look at the reports from various meteorological agencies and see how many record highs and how many record lows have been recorded around the world. In January, we had 7,223 new record highs set and only 1,062 new record lows. The conclusion from this is that we still have a warming world. So until next time, stay safe. Goodbye.